What's up, guys? Unqualified critics, welcome back. Quick follow-up to my last video. Actually, wasn't sure I was going to do a follow-up, but I do have a little bit more to say on this. Last video was about Arcade1up's failure, and I think I could have been a little more clear in my video. So I don't think they failed in the sense that, their product sucks. Like, yeah, I think, should they have done better buttons and sticks? Yeah, that's a core part of an arcade experience. I think they should have gotten rid of the riser a lot earlier. They finally did it. I think they took too long. I think they held on to this notion that these were toys. And yeah, they're kind of toys in the grand scheme, but to people that are spending their money on this, these aren't toys. They're more serious than that. The price point, it's getting up into $600, $700, $800. I mean, that reflects that it's more serious than that. So when I say they failed, I mean they failed to cross over from an arcade enthusiast market, which is pretty small, to a general market. And I think they thought, if we can get the right licenses, we can make the right arcades, and we don't need to worry about arcade enthusiasts because we have NBA enthusiasts and Marvel enthusiasts and Star Wars enthusiasts and NFL enthusiasts. Well, that hasn't worked. NFL Blitz flopped. They made a couple Star Wars cabinets. They iterated on it once. So they've got 2 models out of Star Wars. But how much money have they really made from that? No, they really have made money from pure arcade titles like Pac-Man, Mortal Kombat, Capcom titles. I mean, these are real pure arcade titles. These are not crossover media properties. And I think they thought they could cross over and sell to everyone who's a fan of these other media properties. That's a reasonable assumption in one way, but in another way, these things are huge. It's a big investment to put these in your house. And sometimes I'll say that and someone will disagree with me. Well, to you, it might not be, and I have 12 or 13 of them. It's not to me either. But to your average person, that's who they had to reach. Because remember, Arcade1up has to sell thousands of cabinets per title to make their money back because of either licensing or manufacturing or some combination of both. Their business got really expensive. That's why they can sell 2 million cabinets, make hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue. But look at their site. They only have 50 to 60 employees. They're not making a ton of money, and they're probably losing some money right now. They took out debt, and they're being shaken up now as a result. And it ain't because they're printing money. Their business is too expensive, and I don't think it's in their head count. I think it's in their marginal cost to produce more units. So they have to find a way to be profitable, and that might involve renegotiating their licensing terms or licensing in a different way. I have no idea. All I know is this is the one company that's been able to license the home arcade stuff or arcade titles for full-size or almost full-size home arcade use at scale. They've done it with a ton of titles. They've won a ton of licenses. So they did that right, but it doesn't matter if they're out of business in 2 years because there's not enough buyers. Our market, you and me and everyone watching, we're too small to go and make this company successful. And anyone that's focused on, well, if they'd had these buttons or this stick, or if I was just say, well, they should have got rid of risers, your average consumer doesn't give a shit about that. They're thinking, do I have room for this? Will I play this enough? Do I care to spend $500? I'll never forget watching John D in some kind of one of these YouTube streams. I don't remember which one, a couple years ago. And one of the commenters, chatters, said, man, I got too many of these in my house. I don't have room for more. What should I do? And John D looked into the camera and said, that's your problem, not mine. Dude, it was your problem. And I said that in a video at the time, and that's very evident today. His assumption that they could just keep selling cabinets forever to the same core audience, not going to work. Leadership's assumption that they could keep bringing in a larger and larger audience to keep growing the cabinet volume that way clearly didn't work. Now, I don't think they messed up on execution. I think their premise was wrong, and I think the market didn't live up to their expectations. But the market is what the market is. You and I, what we're willing to buy, that's what it is. And they have to find a way to build a profitable business within those constraints, and they've not done it. Now, that is to clarify all that. The last point I want to make, these are supposedly the new co-CEOs. Whenever I see co-CEO, I just always think about BlackBerry back in the day. They had co-CEOs, company was a mess. Anyway, though, these people look pretty legit. They've both been at Arcade1up for a while. They both have very relevant backgrounds. Dora has background, it looks like, in business strategy and in finance and accounting. So clearly they've got to do some financial engineering here because they're not growing to meet their expectations. They probably can't fundraise right now. Interest rates are high. they fundraised once and they're struggling. So, they got to work with what they have. And someone like this with their background is going to be able to do that. But Chief Financial and Operations Officer. And then you have the CTO. So what this is not, and this is good news, the investor who created this loan, who loaned a bunch of money to Arcade1up, they could have, in another world, sometimes those investors will install their own teams to manage and take over and turn things around. That can be nasty. That can be acrimonious. And you can bet they're probably not, those type of people aren't going to give a shit about arcade gaming or anything like that. These are people with backgrounds in the product and business operations of Arcade1up. So if you're going to have someone running it and you're trying to save money and the founder steps away, this is probably who you want. Look, I don't know these people, but these look like good, relevant backgrounds to me to try to right the ship. But man, they've got to adjust the Arcade1up business model and stop imagining if they release the right title, they'll sell X number of thousand units and they'll be Gucci, because that's not happening. There are still a ton of cabinets I want to see. Cuber, is that going to sell more than 3,000 cabinets they need to break even? I doubt it. Lethal Enforcers, I want to see that. Is that going to do it? I want to see House of the Dead. A lot of you want to see House of the Dead. Will that sell enough thousands of units? I doubt it. Daytona USA, maybe. But they've already shot their shot on the biggest properties, the most universal appeal arcade titles. Now it's diminishing returns. These 90s titles that cost more to emulate, everyone's so worried about the cost to emulate. Worry about how many fans are there for these games. Virtua Cop, how many fans are there for Virtua Cop? 1/20th the number of fans there are for Pac-Man. I want to see a Virtua Cop cab, but how do you make that profitably? They've got to adjust their licensing cost and or their manufacturing cost. That's it. They don't have a ton of overhead. They don't have a huge monster team, and they clearly are running thin. How do I know that? Well, they've sold a couple million cabinets. They've made hundreds of millions in revenue. They only have 60 employees. That's a small head count for big revenue. That tells me their profit margin is thin, which you could expect because they're dealing with Walmart and stuff. They've got to adjust that variable cost of their units. And if they can figure that out, if they can renegotiate the licensing or the manufacturing, whatever the big constraint is, my suspicion is it's licensing, but whatever, that's up to them to figure out. Or if they can figure out a way to make more money from us with software downloads or accessory upgrades or whatever, they've got to make that come together, or Arcade1up is not going to be around in a year or two. Simple as that. But they have a chance. They've got two people that are probably pretty passionate about their business. They're not outsiders. They're here. Whether or not they're gamers, look, I don't know, but Scott wasn't a gamer. Yeah, I'll keep my other comments to myself. I have some other suspicions about some of the other people that have been there, but whatever, Mo Gamer. You don't have to, be a pro gamer to come up with a good product here. It's pretty effing obvious what they need to build. Can they do it in a way that's cost efficient? We're going to find out. Thanks so much for watching, though. If you like this video, hit subscribe, and I'll talk to you later.